This is a lecture about some special notations, and this lecture is directed just at students who are taking the completely online version of the course. If you were taking this in a regular classroom face-to-face, you wouldn't have any need of this. The problem is that sometimes in mathematics we want to communicate via formulas where we use some special symbols that aren't really available in the online environment. So we're going to learn about what kind of substitutions we might make. We're going to learn about special notations, first of all, for multiplication, then for exponents, and then subscripts and fractions. So the first thing to note is very often you'll find that the standard symbol for multiplication, that cross, is unavailable. And you probably know how to substitute. For example, in your calculator, you've probably already learned that you use a star symbol instead. Okay, so you can do that. In fact, you've already seen me do that sometimes. What about exponents? Well, the trouble with exponents is they're supposed to be written above the line, and very often one doesn't have the means to somehow shift up above the line. So if you're not able to do that, how do you let somebody know that you want to be using an exponent? Because it has a special meaning. Well, what you do is you use a caret symbol. You use that symbol I'm showing you there in orange. So for example, if you write that between a 15 and a 2, what you mean is 15 squared. 15 with an exponent of 2. Of course, that's 225. Okay, next thing, how about subscripts? Well, again, you need some special symbol. If you're finding that you can't use subscripts or it's just a pain to use subscripts, instead you may indicate to subscript a symbol just by writing, first of all, the underscore character. So for example, if I write F underscore N, that's the same as if I had written F with a subscript of N. Now, sometimes you want to put more than a single symbol in the exponent or more than a single symbol in the subscript. What if you want to do that? How do you let people know keep staying up in the exponent or keep staying down in the subscript? And what you do is you use some curly brackets. You put curly brackets around everything that you want to go up into the exponent or down into the subscript. So here are some examples. If you have F underscore, and then in the curly brackets you write n plus 1, that means that you intended to write F with a subscript of n plus 1. And if you leave out those curly brackets, it has a different meaning. If you write F underscore n plus 1, then only the single symbol n goes down into the subscript, and when you do the plus 1, that's considered to be back on the line. And this rule applies even if it's just a number that has several digits. So if you want to indicate x raised to the 10th, you'd better put it in curly brackets. So you write x caret curly brackets 10. Now we come to fractions. Well, the way that we write fractions, the way we've been taught in elementary school, is we do a horizontal bar and then we put a number up on top called the numerator and a number down on the bottom called the denominator. Sometimes it's hard to find the means to do that, right? If you're writing something in line in text, then you simply can't do that. So what we allow ourselves to do is to use a slash instead of a horizontal line. In this context, that slash is called a solidus, okay? It just simply means a slash mark used to indicate fraction. And then, if you like, you can combine this with grouping by bracket. So for example, if you want the fraction a plus b divided by c plus d, that is to say, if you want a plus b in the numerator and c plus d in the denominator, give yourself the fraction line, that is to say, the slash, and then pair of curly brackets on either side of it. The a plus b in the curly brackets on the left shows you what the numerator is, and the c plus d inside the curly brackets on the right show you what the denominator is. And then you can combine this with everything else we've learned. Suppose you want to write that crazy formula, which I'm showing in this bottom right box. Now I'm circling the formula that I would like to indicate by an inline notation. How do I do that? Well, the left side of the equation is simply d underscore n. On the right side, I want to make a fraction, so I've given myself the solidus. To the left of it, I'm going to write the entire numerator. To the right of it, the denominator. The denominator is d subscript n minus 2, so I write d underscore, and then I put n minus 2 in curly brackets. Upstairs, I have two terms. First of all, I have d subscript n minus 1 in curly brackets, and then the plus 1. It's a little bit hard to decipher, but if you're a mathematician, you quickly get the hang of how to do this, and it's really forced upon us when we're only allowed to use an inline notation, when we're not allowed to use subscripts or exponents or horizontal fraction lines.